Am I the antagonist for refusing to accept my mom's apology? For context, I am a female who is 16 years old and I recently celebrated my birthday 2 weeks ago. For my birthday, my mom, who is 37 years old, and I plan to have a girls' day at the mall. We rarely get to do this because she is always busy with work or taking care of my 3 younger brothers. On the night of my birthday, my mom and her boyfriend, who I'll call Adam and is 30 years old, came home from work. They immediately started packing, so my sister, 17, and I asked them what they were doing. My mom then told me that they were going out of town for the weekend. I was confused and asked her what she meant because we had planned to hang out for over a month. Adam explained that their boss was paying for everything and they were going on a fishing trip and they would be back on Monday. I am aware that I am a very sensitive person, so I immediately got upset and wanted to cry. I asked my mom, what about Saturday? And she shrugged at me before saying that we will go another time. My sister made a small comment about how it was rude of her to just leave on my birthday. My mom offered to stay home, but I could tell she was really excited, so I told her to go. Before they left, she gave me $200 for my birthday present. A few hours after she left, my younger brothers, who are still relatively young, ranging from 7, 12, started asking us what was for dinner. My mom hadn't prepared anything or bought groceries. So long story short, I spent all my money to make sure they ate every day and didn't go hungry. In my mind, I couldn't let my brothers be hungry knowing I had money. When my mom and Adam came home a few days later, she asked me where all my money went because I had made a comment to my sister about being broke already. When I explained to her what happened over the weekend, she got very angry. My mom started yelling at me and said many hurtful things like, "I can't believe you spent all that money on food. I can't even look at you. Get away from me. And you make me actually sick to my stomach." My relationship with my mom has never been great, but that last part really hurt my feelings. I immediately went to my room very upset and started crying. I didn't come out for dinner because of how upset I was. Due to thin walls, I could hear my mom talking about me to our whole family at dinner, basically saying she would never give me anything again and how angry she was. The next day, while I was doing the dishes, my mom walked into the kitchen and apologized, but I was still very upset, so I ignored her. She tapped my shoulder and asked if I had my AirPods in. I simply told her no and kept putting away dishes. Now my mom's boyfriend and my sister are both mad at me for not forgiving my mom or even acknowledging her apology. Am I the asshole? Based on the information provided, it seems like you are not the a-hole in this situation. Your mother made plans with you for your birthday, but then canceled last minute to go on a fishing trip with her boyfriend. She gave you money as a gift, but you had to spend it on food for your younger brothers because your mom didn't provide any groceries. When she found out, she got angry with you and said hurtful things. It's understandable that you are still upset and not ready to forgive her yet. You have the right to feel hurt and take the time you need to process your emotions. Your sister and your mom's boyfriend should try to understand your perspective and support you rather than pressuring you to forgive her immediately. Am I the antagonist for telling my oldest daughter that she needs to stop taking her frustration at my lackluster performance as a father on her sister? I am a 37-year-old man and I have 2 daughters and a son. I had my oldest daughter when I was around 17, her brother at 20, and then my youngest 4 years ago with my wife. I was not a great father until I got custody of my son. I was not consistently in my daughter's life until she was around 10. When she was 12, her mother passed away and she moved in with me and my son. When my daughter was about 15, I married my current wife and we had a baby a year later. I wanted things to be different with my second daughter and they are. I am giving my second daughter the father my first daughter didn't have. As a result, there has been some tension between my oldest daughter and my youngest. My oldest daughter frequently gets upset seeing me be a parent to my youngest as she didn't have that experience. She also frequently is mean to my youngest. However, my youngest loves her big sister with all of her heart, and my oldest daughter is incredibly cold to her and always has been. Before my oldest daughter went off to college, I tried to foster a good relationship between the two. I made sure to not make my oldest daughter a default babysitter but encouraged her to spend time with her. This tension boiled over 2 nights ago when my oldest daughter was visiting and we got into an argument. I was playing with my youngest daughter and my oldest daughter went on about how lucky she is that she gets to have this time with me since she never did. I don't like to have these discussions in front of my youngest daughter. She may be 4, but she's old enough to know when there's tension even if she doesn't fully understand why. My oldest daughter kept pushing and escalating the pressure until she snapped. She went off about how unfair it is that I'm there for her while I wasn't there for her. She said my youngest daughter will never have to struggle like she and her mom did, and it's not right that she gets a dad. I told her she was right to be upset with me. I was not there for her like she needed, and I will forever acknowledge that there is no justification for what I did other than the fact that I was young and immature. I told her that there is not an amount of words or times that I can tell her that I'm sorry enough to undo the damage I have done, and that I will never forgive myself for not giving her what she needed while she was a child. However, I also told her that she needs to stop blaming her sister for this. None of this was her sister's fault and she doesn't know anything right now. This is not something she should have to think about until she's older. Things escalated into a crying, yelling fit where she said I was invalidating her feelings. I tried to comfort her, but she was not having any of it and stormed to bed telling me she'd be gone in the morning. I do feel awful, of course. However, I don't think I was wrong to say what I said. There's a time and place for that, and it wasn't in our living room while I'm playing with her sister. I also feel that I was right to say she should not blame her little sister for my actions. Am I the asshole? It is understandable that your oldest daughter feels upset and resentful about the lack of presence you had in her life until later on. It is also understandable that you want to provide your youngest daughter with the love and attention you did not give your oldest. However, it seems like the argument escalated quickly and emotions ran high. It is commendable that you acknowledged your mistakes and took responsibility for not being there for your oldest daughter. You were right to apologize and express remorse for your past actions. However, it is important to validate her feelings and not dismiss them. While the timing and place of the argument may not have been ideal, it is necessary to have open and honest conversations about the past for the sake of healing and growth. Moving forward, it would be beneficial to have a calm and open conversation with your oldest daughter to discuss her feelings and experiences. Offer therapy or counseling as a way for her to work through her emotions and address any lingering resentment. Additionally, continue fostering a healthy relationship between your two daughters, encouraging empathy and understanding. Remember, healing takes time and patience, and it will require effort from both sides to rebuild trust and create a more positive family dynamic. Am I the antagonist for uninviting my sister and her family from Thanksgiving? I am a 38-year-old woman with 5 siblings, one of whom is my 37-year-old sister, Katie. Katie is married to a man named Vincent, who is also 37 years old. They have 2 sons, Forrest, who is 13 years old, and Fergus, who is 11 years old. Every year Thanksgiving is held at my house, and this year is no different. However, we have a new guest this year, Forrest's girlfriend Scarlett, who is 13 years old. Scarlett is a sweet kid and she happens to be autistic. One of her special interests is baking and cooking. When Forrest asked if Scarlett could come to Thanksgiving with my permission, she expressed her interest in helping with the food. I agreed to this. Yesterday, I had Forrest and Scarlett over at my house to plan what we were going to make. Meanwhile, Forrest was playing some games with my 5-year-old son. We discussed the main course dishes, such as turkey and mashed potatoes, and then moved on to talk about dessert. Scarlett shared her ideas for creative desserts, and I listened. She suggested making a baseball-themed cake or cookies for Forrest, which I thought was a great idea. I then asked her if we should also consider making something with a Star Wars or anime theme for Fergus. However, Scarlett told me that Forrest would not like that because he always insults Fergus and doesn't like him. This came as a surprise to me, so I asked Scarlett to explain. She then told me that Fergus had been making extremely sexist remarks, both about her and in general. He would say things like baking was a suitable activity for Scarlett because that's where women belong, or that women were more feeble-minded. I was horrified by this and asked Forrest to provide more details. He told me everything and shared that he didn't tell me earlier because he was afraid I would be angry with him. When he mentioned it to his parents, they told him not to be a snitch or a tattletale. After this conversation, I called Katie to discuss the situation. However, she became upset with me and questioned why I would encourage Forrest and Scarlett to be tattletales. She added, "Just because you were a tattletale as a kid doesn't mean I want my kids to be tattletales." She would not let me speak, so I ended the call. When Katie came to pick up Forrest and Scarlett, I informed her that she, Vincent, and Fergus were no longer welcome at Thanksgiving unless she apologized for yelling at me. She refused and left. Since then, I have received messages on Facebook from various relatives who believe I am being unfair. They are urging me to call Katie and invite her back. Although my husband and I believe Katie is in the wrong, the strong negative reaction from my family has made me uncertain. Am I the a-hole? You are not at fault for wanting to address the sexist remarks made by Fergus. It is important to create a safe and respectful environment for everyone, including Scarlett. You were open to hearing Scarlett's ideas for desserts and tried to include Fergus by suggesting themes that he might enjoy. It is concerning that Katie and Vincent dismissed Forrest's concerns and discouraged him from speaking up. You did the right thing by standing up against Katie's yelling and setting boundaries. Holding Katie accountable for her behavior and asking for an apology shows that you prioritize respect and communication in your relationships. The fact that your relatives are pressuring you to reinvite Katie without addressing the underlying issue is unfair. You should trust your instincts and continue to prioritize the well-being of your guests and family members. Am I the antagonist for wanting to kick our friends and their newborn baby out of our house? My husband and I just bought our first home together in April of this year, where we live with our 2 dogs and our toddler, who is almost 2. In June, we had discussed the possibility of letting our friends, we'll call them Seth and Lisa, also married, stay with us for a little while, rent-free, so that they can get on their feet and save up some money. I agreed, and we let them know. Not long after that, they told us they were pregnant. Shockingly, considering she has polycystic ovary syndrome and a double uterus, being told it would be extremely difficult for her to conceive. This was a blindside for us, but we decided we would still let them stay up to a year if needed. They moved into our house in July. Since then, things have gone off the rails. Seth had quit his job when they moved, and still currently doesn't have one. He spends all day every day on his computer playing video games and smoking marijuana. Lisa works from home making phone calls. On top of this, neither of them ever do any housework. Basic cleaning, taking out the trash, unloading the dishwasher, nothing. They also take our food without asking and use other items as well and never replace items that they've used. They have made themselves extremely comfortable at our expense. Lisa has also complained about our dogs barking and our toddler being too loud while she's taking phone calls for her job. They also have 8 cats. I told them that the cats cannot come into our house because I am allergic and the dogs wouldn't get along with them. They purchased a small building and got it put in our backyard for the cats to stay in. This building has electricity and supplies heating and cooling for the cats. Not necessarily an issue, just something to consider. She also hasn't had any prenatal care. She used the excuse of not having insurance, but even after she got insurance, she still hasn't made a point to get checked out. She's visited the emergency room once because she was having pain, but that's it. She's had multiple 3D/4D scans done for fun, but nothing medical. I've also seen her smoke marijuana on one occasion while being pregnant. Lisa is also a very negative person. She complains about my husband not being finished with the attic because she needs somewhere to put her things so she can get them out of the nursery. She complains that our floor isn't level. She complains that yard work isn't done, all while she and Seth are doing nothing about it either. 2 nights ago, Seth and Lisa went to the emergency room again because Lisa was having pains. She was diagnosed with preeclampsia and admitted to the hospital. They're currently in the hospital and are going to have their baby in the next couple days. I feel like I'm at my breaking point and can't handle the weeks to come. My husband feels the same, but doesn't want to jeopardize his friendship with Seth. Them being here is taking a serious toll on my mental health and my relationship with my husband. So am I the asshole? You were initially willing to help out your friends by letting them stay with you rent-free, even after finding out they were pregnant unexpectedly. However, they have taken advantage of your hospitality and are not contributing to household chores or expenses. Additionally, they haven't made any effort to seek proper prenatal care for the pregnancy, which is concerning. Their behavior, lack of responsibility, and negativity are negatively impacting your mental health and your relationship with your husband. It is reasonable for you to feel overwhelmed and frustrated in this situation. It is important for you and your husband to discuss your boundaries and concerns with Seth and Lisa. You both should assertively communicate your expectations about household responsibilities and their need to seek proper medical care. If they continue to disregard your concerns and show no effort to improve the situation, you may need to reassess whether allowing them to stay in your home is still feasible. Am I the antagonist? I told my partner's cousin, I don't have time for your bullshit. Okay, so I, 22-year-old female, was hanging out the other day with my partner, 26-year-old female, before we had to leave for an appointment. My partner's cousin Ellen, 24-year-old female, was going to be passing through our town, so we invited her to stop by and see our new apartment and hang out for a bit. I generally like Ellen. She can be funny, witty, and sometimes very intelligent and interesting. The only issue is her attitude towards veganism. When it comes to that, logic seems to fail her, and she often tries to talk about illogical information regarding the acquisition of certain animal products or tries to engage you in a debate about veganism. She refuses to drop it no matter how hard you try to get her to. If she's in debate mode, your best chance is to leave or ignore her, but even that doesn't always work. My partner, and all their relatives, has simply learned to tolerate it over the years. Ellen became vegan when she was a preteen, but I haven't gotten used to it yet, and it's still incredibly annoying and frustrating. I cannot tolerate willful ignorance and blatant misinformation. It drives me crazy, especially because I know, work with, and am friends with many people who are vegan or vegetarian, and they aren't like this. Ellen sometimes seems like the stereotypical representation that gives vegans a bad reputation. Anyway, Ellen stops by, and eventually she manages to bring up veganism in the conversation and starts criticizing us indirectly about using certain animal products, still eating meat, and most relevantly given the time of year, using mouse and rat traps. This escalates into another round of false arguments, and I reach my breaking point when she tries to convince me that shearing sheep is very harmful and completely unnecessary. It was almost time for me to leave anyway. My nerves were frayed, and I was ready to go, so I said, you know what? I don't have time for your nonsense. I said goodbye to my partner and left while Ellen shouted after me. She sounded angry, but I was done with it and ignored her. When I reached my destination, I checked my phone and saw some missed texts from my partner about the situation. Ellen doesn't have my number, so she can't contact me directly, but my partner told me on Ellen's behalf that she thinks I was being rude. My partner thinks I was a bit harsh, but agrees with me because they also can't stand Ellen's behavior at times. Ellen is already complaining to other family members, and my partner's parents have called asking about what happened and why I was so mean to Ellen. I'm honestly tired of the fact that nobody confronts her about her behavior, but I want to know if my response was too much. Am I the asshole? You had reached your breaking point after tolerating Ellen's constant pushiness and spreading of misinformation about veganism. It's understandable that her behavior would frustrate you, especially since you know other vegans who don't exhibit the same attitude. However, it's also important to consider whether your response was proportionate. While it's reasonable to express your frustration, calling Ellen's viewpoints bullshit may have been harsh, and this could be what your partner and others are referring to. It's possible that a more composed and assertive response could have avoided escalating the situation. In terms of moving forward, you may want to have a calm conversation with your partner about how Ellen's behavior affects you. Communicate your concerns and express your desire for a more respectful and constructive dialogue when it comes to contentious topics like veganism. Additionally, engaging in open discussions with Ellen about her behavior and providing factual information might help bridge the gap between your viewpoints. Remember, it's important to maintain respectful communication and understanding, even when discussing sensitive topics. Will I be the asshole if I, 22F, tell my mother, 58F, that my father, 67M, might be having an affair? My mother recently left for a suburb 5 hours away to take care of a friend for 10 days while she recovered from surgery. During that time, my dad was in contact with a former work friend, 58-year-old female, whom he sees every 2 years or so. She invited him to a concert, but they had to sit in different seats as she had already purchased tickets. I'm not sure when my dad came home that night since I was asleep by 9 p.m. 2 days later, my dad mentioned going into the city that night to shop, go to the gym, and have dinner. This surprised me because he hates shopping, rarely goes into the city unless my mom suggests it, and doesn't like being alone. Secretly, I suspect he may be visiting a distant family member who recently returned to town after an affair with a woman from overseas. To confirm my suspicions, I tracked his location and he was at a shopping center near Starbucks for 2 hours. I called him twice to ask about dinner plans, but he didn't answer. Finally, I FaceTimed him, and he answered while walking and seemed unusually happy. He said he would join me for dinner, and we ended up having a great time. When I picked him up at the public transport terminal, I asked about his brother, the estranged family member, and he laughed, saying he didn't see him. It was okay if I had wanted him to, though. He claimed he went shopping but couldn't find anything he liked. I found this strange because I had tracked him and knew he was at a cafe. He laughed it off, admitting that he had a mocha but also did some shopping. He mentioned running into a coworker from project management and catching up with them. 2 days later, while fixing the TV upstairs, I was using my dad's phone with an instructional guide open as he attempted to disconnect HDMI cables. To my surprise, messages popped up on his screen. I couldn't resist the temptation to take a peek and see if he was searching for a new job or had discussed it during the conversation. The messages were from Angel Project Management and ended with, "Sure. See you when you are free, D," and a response of "Great." Against my better judgment, I clicked on the conversation and read through it. It was with the woman from the concert who had introduced herself as Angel in their chat. Their conversation was friendly, perhaps even slightly romantic, with good morning and good night exchanges. It's not weird for my mom to have male friends, but the strange part is the lying about meeting and changing the contact's name in his phone. Their most recent messages confirmed their desire to see each other again. Now I'm faced with the dilemma of whether or not to tell my mother about this situation. Based on the information provided, it seems that you are in a difficult situation. Ultimately, whether or not to tell your mother about your father's interaction with this woman is a personal decision. However, it may be helpful to consider a few things before making a choice. Firstly, it's important to remember that your parents have their own relationship and dynamics that you may not be fully aware of. Interjecting in their personal matters without knowing the full story can potentially cause more harm than good. Additionally, it's possible that your mother may already know about this woman or suspect something, and bringing it up could lead to unnecessary tension or conflict. On the other hand, keeping secrets within a family can be burdensome and lead to further problems down the line. If you genuinely believe that your mother should know about your father's behavior, it might be worth having an open and honest conversation with your father first. Express your concern and how it made you feel when you discovered these messages. Give him the opportunity to explain himself and potentially come clean to your mother. Ultimately, the decision is up to you, but it's important to approach the situation with empathy and understanding for all parties involved. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.